Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Jason. Welcome back to Recovery Junkie. Today is February 2nd. It's American Heart Month. It is also Black History Month. It is also Red Friday, or Remember Everyone Deployed. I would also like to bring up some facts on the awareness of heart disease or cardiovascular disease. So I have red on, obviously, for today, because today is Go for Women Red Day. Something interesting, not interesting, but just a fact that I came across on a link was that cardiovascular disease kills one woman every 80 seconds, and I'll attach that link as well. Between the days of the 7th and the 14th of this month is congenital heart disease for children. So just to kind of spread the word before I get into my story, and do what you need to do, spread the word, bring the awareness up. But back to my story now. I left it off when I was getting out of treatment, and I need to bring it back before I went to the military, because I don't want to cheat you guys and I don't want to cheat myself. So before I went to the military, I was doing Oxycontin and Speedball, or I was doing Oxycontin and Coke together, and I was basically at Speedball. It's kind of like a synthetic Speedball, but it's speedballing. And it's really dangerous. I mean, it's bad for your heart. It's terrible, What makes it bad, though, is you don't get the full effect of one drug. So you're doing a depressant, you're doing an upper, and you basically don't know, you're not feeling the effects of each or. So you're at a high risk for an overdose. But I was into that very heavily, and I was also into crack very heavily back then. And that was those were tough days, tough times. Digging around on the carpet, looking for rocks, smoking whatever that I would find, thinking that it was crack. It takes a toll on you. And who the hell knows what you're smoking? Half the time. Sometimes you're just so desperate. You want to regain that euphoric feeling that it's just in desperation. Just the behaviors in that atmosphere is so grimy. It's so damn grimy. I can think back on some thoughts at that moment, and or in those moments, and I remember spending the last dollars that I had, and I'd feel like shit. Waking up the next day, not a dollar to my name, kicking myself in the ass, and just being like, what the hell did I do? Why? And it's a terrible feeling. It just lowers your self-esteem, and you go back out and you still do the same thing over and over again. And it's not the way to live. It's not the way to live. And it's a vicious cycle to get caught up in. But back to what I was talking about when I came out of treatment. Since I lied and I minimized my drug use, I didn't get the right help that I needed, and that's what I was kind of mentioning about. It's very important when you go to treatment to be honest with these people that are, offering you the help, because so they can get you the right help. So basically, I lied. I didn't get the right help. Didn't get the right program. And finished that up, went back out, so I didn't get the substance abuse program that I should have gotten into, and I didn't learn anything about substance abuse. I learned more about depression, anxiety, and that. So when I went back out, I didn't know the severity of addiction or anything like that. So basically, it was just a break for me. This is when, I mean, my use was bad the whole time. But this is basically when it really spiraled out of control and, you know, went down tubes. Because when I got out from me taking a break, you know, I thought everything was cool. I thought I had a grip on everything. I thought I could just basically stop whenever I wanted to stop, because I didn't know, you know, I didn't have the knowledge. And so from being in the military, they have you save up money, or you can save up money, and I cashed in all my savings plans, you know, because I went back to using pills. And of course, you know, I was into everything else that I was into before. Cocaine, Xanax, you know, and I would, you know, by this time, the Oxycontins, you couldn't like really sniff them anymore because they turned them into that gel form. So what I did, you know, was move to the perks and went that route. But yeah, it was bad. It was terrible, you know. Everybody in that group of people that I hung with, it was just grimy. It was a grimy way of living, you know, people hustling each other to make money, to make means to support their habit. And, you know, it's just, I look back on it now and it sucks, you know, but it is what it is. It's an experience, it's a learning experience. I'm glad I lived through it, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I cashed in all my bonds pretty much. And that was thousands. Like, I'm talking thousands of dollars that I used on drugs. Nothing else. Maybe a couple bucks here and there to eat, whatever else, but we're talking, to put a number on it so you guys can get a perspective, we're talking probably maybe like $4,000 or $5,000 within maybe like a month period, you know, and that's pretty heavy use. Now, during that month period, I was so dope sick from doing pills, and you know, I really didn't drink during this time. That heavy pill use, I really didn't drink, and I just didn't have the urge to. But whenever I would do like some cocaine or you know, crack, something like that, yeah, I would have the urge to drink. But whenever I would just do Percocets, benzos, you know, Xanax, something like that, I wouldn't have the urge to drink. But another thing too is I would smoke cigarettes like a damn chimney, you know. So I would smoke cigarettes like a chimney while I was on all these drugs. And that's another thing too, you know. So I'm smoking all these cigarettes, I'm spending money on all these cigarettes. Not only that, I'm killing myself that way as well while I'm doing all these drugs, you know. So it's like, wow, you know, my disease is really out to get me one way or another. It's either going to try and get me doing drugs, putting all these cigarettes into my body, put me in bad environments. However, it's out to get me. So I, you know, eventually was so dope sick from doing pills that I was at a vulnerable spot, you know, and I said, I'll never, and it got introduced to me, and it was heroin. and it's 10 minutes, and somebody just died from a heroin overdose. So if you want, make that phone call, make sure that person's still alive if you know that does heroin, you know, and just make that phone call. But, you know, I was at that vulnerable spot, said I'll never, and you know, it was there. Somebody introduced it to me, and I said, yeah, I'll try it, you know, and that was it. It was done. It was a wrap. You know, once I experienced that feeling, all those other feelings from those other drugs, out the window. You know, those pills, forget about it. At this time I was sniffing heroin, but you know, just the thought pattern that I had, it was so damn grimy. I was just, once that got introduced to me, you know, I thought everybody was either out to get what I wanted or out to get what I had, or I was either out to get what they had. I was out to either see how people could benefit me, or, you know, I basically, I was a freaking junkie. You know, I was a junkie all along, but I didn't really realize it until people started finding out that I did heroin, and somebody actually called me a junkie, and I got offended. You know, I said, no, I'm not a junkie, you know, but yeah, I was a junkie. I was a freaking junkie. You know, when I started stealing money from my wife, to, you know, I would steal her debit card and go to the bank, and, you know, my thought process was, I'm entitled to this money. This money's mine too. You know, no, that's you know, that's irrational thinking. So it's so bogus, you know, that lifestyle. That it's just so much pain, and it just really takes a toll on you. Stress, shame, embarrassment, frustration, anger, not just within myself, but my loved ones around me. And then it got to the point where, you know, I would lose every job because I would be so dope sick if I didn't have heroin. And I had some pretty decent jobs. You know, I worked at an engineering company for a little bit, and then I worked at a construction company for a while. Just everything, man. I was a full-blown junkie, you know. Didn't give a shit. All I cared about was drugs. And I needed them to survive. I needed them to get out of bed. I needed them to shower. I needed them to brush my teeth. I needed them to wipe my own ass. You know, it was sick. It was a sick way of living. It was freaking animalistic. You know, and I can cope with people that say life ain't worth living anymore. Life ain't worth living anymore, because there was a point that I got to where I thought that way, you know, because obviously when you're doing heavy drugs like that, you don't feel like living anymore, because you're not experiencing what life has to offer. You're suppressing all your emotions, and yeah, you can do the fun activities, but you're not getting the full fulfillment out of them. So you're like, man, this sucks, you know, I'm not having fun, you know, because I was doing so much dope, I wasn't getting any fun out of anything, whatever it was. And that's why, in my thought process back then, it was like, what's the point of living? I'm worthless because of my actions that I was doing, my behaviors. my emotions were so suppressed. My thought process, my irrational thinking was it was just messed up. And, obviously your reasoning is so messed up, and you'll do anything when you're dope sick to not feel sick. You'll screw over family, you'll lie, you'll steal from family, you'll hurt the closest people to you in order to get that fix, and you don't care. You don't care. And it's frustrating to the loved ones who see you going through this, and they just say, stop, please stop. But back when I was using like that, it wasn't that easy to stop for a couple reasons. I guess a big reason was, obviously I like the feeling. Another reason I can think of was I was just so involved heavily with the people that I was with, and being that close to it, it's hard to separate yourself when you're that close to it. But the biggest thing is when you fear change. I mean, that was my big thing, was how can I go back to, you know what it was actually? It was more of like I forgot what the feeling of feeling my emotions was. So I had no idea the real feeling of living, because once you get to that point of using so heavily, all I really remembered was that feeling, and that's all I could comprehend, was either being dope sick or the good feeling. I couldn't remember the emotions life provided and the rational thinking. I couldn't think beyond being sick, or when I was feeling good, I couldn't think of, everything's gonna be all right, or I gotta get help, or, there's just, those thoughts are gone. And it's hard. It is hard, very hard, to break that cycle. And it's tough. The struggle is real, and it's tough, and it's painful, very painful, very painful. Obviously I went through an overdose already, and there's more to come, but I'm gonna leave it at that right now. I would like to talk about this right now. My mother gave me this. It's a necklace. It's St. Maximilian Kolbe. He died August 14th, 1941. He was in a German camp in Auschwitz. He volunteered himself in place of a stranger to die. And he's the saint for charity and drug abuse. If you're interested, look it up, get a little history lesson. But it's pretty, pretty heroic if you ask me. And but yeah, it's a very, very painful lifestyle once you start going that, getting into heroin, and that's the epidemic out here now. But I'm gonna leave it here. So
20 minutes.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Person died.
And we'll pick it back up. Stay blessed.
Person died.
And We'll see you next time.